One of my friends has an interesting expression that's from his time in the Marine Corps. He was active duty, I was a reservist, but he's got an interesting expression because of when he went through. He went through, I think, around Vietnam era, and he calls it a punk with a black belt. Basically, he's saying, I don't care how much, he calls everything karate. I don't care how much karate you know. If you a punk and then you go and get a black belt in karate and you still a punk, you just a punk with a black belt. And basically he's just saying, if you're a wimp and you just learn some techniques, but you don't learn any fighting spirit behind it, you're basically just going to be a wimp with a black belt. And I'm kind of finding that, and he started bringing that up again when I was talking to him about people that freeze, not just kids, but sometimes every once in a while you get an adult in there that'll just freeze doing sparring, or how some people will, the first time they actually ever have to use a martial art because they don't have violence really in their daily paradigm. And the violent situation, not only is it painful, but it's totally alien to them, so they freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze. 3 basic responses to threat: run, fight, or freeze, so that the predator doesn't see you. He says if you don't have any heart, that's what we used to call it when I was coming up. You ain't got no heart. Can't nobody do anything for you. And I'm starting to think that a lot of that's kind of true with the martial arts. It's like, if we want to compare this type of art to a musical art, it's like there's some people who can learn to play an instrument, but they're just not as soulful as other people who really have a knack for it. So, basically, if you think that every student that you have, if you're a piano teacher, is going to play in Carnegie Hall, that's, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed. But yet, I still hold out hope for the martial arts because I know that if you give it a chance, even if everybody is not going to be a professional fighter, the things that you can get out of it are so beneficial that it's worth the effort, it's worth the frustration, it's worth working through the pain of at least getting a first-degree black belt. To me, the only other thing I've seen that gives a better benefit is studying your faith or your religion. It's like everybody who goes to church is not going to be a priest or a nun. Everybody who reads the Bible is not going to be a pastor or a pope. We're not all going to end up being evangelists, those of us who are Christian, but if you really try to walk out your faith, it's going to improve your life. So I look at the martial arts in a similar vein. It can be used to improve your life. It makes you work physically, it makes you work mentally. And if you start studying the philosophies, it should lead you to some type of spiritual path as well, eventually. Like with me, it made me investigate my own innate spiritual path more of Christianity, as I learned that some of the martial artists I looked up to, like Weishaba, they integrated their faith into the martial arts. And I ran into a teacher, then Master Davis, now Grandmaster Davis. He integrated his faith into his Taekwondo practice. So I started doing it too. So, I just think there's benefit from the activity in and of itself. The discipline of it, even if you don't, even if you're not perfect, even if you don't end up being a perfect physical specimen, mental specimen, emotional specimen, or spiritual specimen, you're never going to be perfect. You're going to have your weaknesses, but you can use the martial arts as a good vehicle for you to work on those weaknesses. So hopefully one day you won't just be a punk with a black belt. You'll be that punk with a white belt who grew into a somebody with a black belt.